Unfortunately for you.
It is Jim, and this is the Rose of Ariandel. Let me give you the brief history of this weapon real quick. It was easily one of the most passable weapons in the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, if the Follower's Torch didn't exist, of course. Which is ironic because the weapon shares its name with the DLC itself. That ought to have given it some legitimacy, and yet most players end up using Freed's Boss Soul to get Freed's Great Scythe instead. The only times that you do see the Rose are when Miracle Casters are trying to buff their spells, which, lo and behold, the Rose does increase the damage of offensive miracles by a whole 25% for about 2 minutes. That increase is definitely something to shake your stick at. But what good is the Rose of Ariandel besides the buff that it offers? That's what we're going to try to figure out today. So first things first, its moveset. The Rose is simultaneously a whip and a club. It's got the club moveset with whip properties, meaning that its attacks can't be parried, but you can't backstab or riposte with it either. When compared to other clubs and hammers, it also doesn't have poise to its attacks, effectively making it a discount Heisel pick. However, it still has plenty of solid positives, mainly thanks to its range and its R1 moveset. The R1s are slow enough that the third swing can catch players panic rolling in almost any direction. Toward you, away from you, to the side. Don't go sleeping on its range either. I think this point is incredibly important. The Rose has phantom range that some weapons can only dream about having. Not only that, but the Rose can accumulate bleed. It's not a tremendous amount, but when dealing with an opponent that's turtling or constantly healing, that bleed may end up proccing and help to bring that pesky player down. And this is the Rose without using it as a catalyst, which is the other half of the weapon. When we add in miracles, that's when the Rose becomes that much more interesting. The first obvious spell to pair with the Rose is Lightning Arrow. Lightning Arrow is arguably the most versatile miracle. It's quick to cast, first off. When shot, its projectiles are just as fast, not to mention that its arrows track enemies and have much bigger hitboxes than standard arrows. It is particularly effective at punishing players trying to heal. They think they've rolled a successful distance away, so they go for a quick sip and... nope. Closest thing to an Estus parry as you can get. Lightning Arrow is also great for doing chip damage on shields that don't have high resistance to lightning damage. This means that it's a great candidate for dealing with enemies with low health or have just had their Tears of Denial procced. They're also great for punishing slower spells from sorceries or pyromancies, or slower weapons like ultra great swords, great hammers, etc. You're able to roll cancel out of Lightning Arrow if you're about to get hit. It has fast recovery after letting an arrow loose, so you can catch players with your R1, and you can even do 360 no-scopes.
Are you recording?
Remember how I called this thing the discount Heisel pick? That's because the Heisel pick can combo its R1 into a Soul Greatsword, or even an Old Moonlight. Since the Rose has the same moveset as the pick, what can it combo into? Force does no damage and just knocks the other player down. But that's it. In some instances, Force can be useful. It can mean that you just knocked someone off a ledge, or you bought yourself a few precious seconds to get a heal off. Or potentially, this knockdown can lead into a well-timed Wrath of the Gods. Now this isn't a confirmed combo. R1 into Force into roll catching Wog is definitely a pseudo combo. It has you entirely relying on the fact that the other player times their roll poorly in order for you to hit them with Wog. Compare that to the Heisel picks R1 into Old Moonlight combo, and it should be clear as day which is more efficient. Alas, you gotta work with what you're given. As for the rest of the offensive miracles, in my honest opinion, they're all situational and semi-reliable at best. If you have empty attunement slots, you should prioritize Lightning Arrow and some healing miracles first before you go get, say, Sunlight Spear, Lightning Stake, or even Emit Force. Sunlight Spear and Lightning Stake lose a big chunk of their usefulness since you don't have poise casting with the Rose. Lightning Stake may prove more successful in catching players rolling into you, but the spell itself has low range and is still slow at the highest casting speed. It can be dodged rather easily. It may be better to just use Force if they roll into you, or just straight up R1 them instead. Emit Force might not do as much damage as the other two spells, but once you learn how to aim it while unlocked, it can be used to close in on the enemy if you do knock them down. Even if someone's turtling, if you do hit them with the spell, it will at least stun them for a bit so you can either retreat or advance. Again, very situational. You don't necessarily gain anything from having those spells available, but it wouldn't hurt to have them in your back pocket. As for defensive healing spells, go wild. The entire school is your oyster. You can use Bountiful Light for regen, Great Heal for great heals, put on your own Tears of Denial for maximum try-hard status, and so on. I'd personally recommend Med Heal or Bountiful Light for dueling because the amount of health you get from both is sizable while not costing too much FP or stamina in the process. Now, how do you build around this weapon? Surprisingly, you can actually take the Rose to more places than just meta level dueling. But let's start off with what a meta level Rose looks like. The bare minimum is to bring Faith to 40 and Strength to 27. This fulfills all of the Rose's soft caps as long as you're two-handing the weapon. The Rose's soft cap for Faith and Strength is 40. Also at 40 Faith, the Rose has the highest spell buff of all the talismans and chimes as well. Put a Saintry Bellvine in your offhand, which will increase your casting speed without the need of a Sage's Ring, and there you have it. How you want to go from there is down to you. Do you want more attunement slots for more variety of spells? Go right ahead. Do you want more vigor and endurance for survivability? Go right ahead. Do you want to do something crazy and put more points into vitality and run a fast roll build? Maybe not, but the possibility is still there. Now I've taken the Rose into invasions and have got mixed results. It can't handle multiple people at one time, that's for sure. It is very much a solo target weapon, especially considering that its physical AR isn't all that great. Instead, what I would recommend is using it more as utility than your main weapon. Put it in your offhand, available as a faith bow of sorts, or as a weapon to go to if you encounter a turtle or a parry spammer. Apply the harassment and pressure mentality to co-op invasions, and now while the bow might not be dealing a whole lot of damage, it may still serve a purpose in keeping on the damage, if you know what I'm saying. The Rose is a solid tool to have in a faith build invader, especially if their faith is at 40. If you go above 40 though, then you may want to use talismans and chimes instead. And that's about it for the Rose of Ariandel. Surprise! It's not changing the meta in any way, but I wanted to highlight a weapon that didn't get much of a highlight in the first place. It is completely satisfying to use once you get the feeling for it. Using miracles alongside your long-reaching R1s can give your opponent quite the gnarly surprise. And if all else fails, how you make your build could mean you have reliable backup weapons to cover for your weaknesses. Since you will be at 40 faith, that means that lightning-infused weapons will also be at their soft caps. You could have backup weapons such as a lightning-infused claymore, lightning-infused mailbreaker, or maybe even throw a sunlight straight sword up in there for good luck. Thank y'all so much for watching. Like that smash button if you enjoyed genuinely this, and comment to leave if you would like to thought your shares. Keep your head up out there, y'all. Tomorrow's another day.
Shout out to my man Fighter PL with that sick firebug.